In your reading in the Zuck textbook, we are looking at two axioms which form the basis for proper biblical interpretation. Those axioms are: the Bible is a human book, and the Bible is a divine book. Let's discuss some of the principles that Zuck brought out in the particular chapter as we move forward in this PowerPoint. Various principles are based on Axiom 1, the Bible is a human book. Those principles are found on 61 through 64 in your Zuck textbook. The first principle is each biblical writing, that is, each word, sentence, and book, was recorded in a written language and followed normal grammatical meanings, including figurative language. Let's say several things about this point. In our introductory video, we talked about the importance of understanding that the Bible is written in human language and written by humans. This is important because, as we spoke earlier, philosophers throughout history, from Plato to Aristotle to now, have suggested that whatever ultimate reality is can't be known by man or spoken of in human language. Now, that's created a problem because if that's true, then we can't speak of anything that's ultimate. In other words, if that's true, then language about ultimate reality or about God is not true. It's just our subjective experiences, and we can't know. The Bible teaches something very different about God. The Bible teaches that God's a personal God, a God who is a person, and He can speak to us. And while we are yet humans and our language can't exhaust God, we can speak words about God and truths about God and sentences about God that are true. If that were true, then the Bible would be nothing more than human speculation. But we believe that the Bible is written in sentences and grammatical and has grammar and language that has meaning that anybody can understand down here. The second principle is each biblical writing was written by someone to specific hearers and readers in a specific historical geographical situation for a specific purpose. Now, this is important because we want to understand the Bible written in its historical context, what the Bible was saying to the readers it was written to. Instead of reading our historical context back on the Bible, we try to find out what the Bible said in its historical context. Number 3, the Bible is affected and influenced by the cultural environment from which each human writer wrote. There's a cultural environment that the Bible was written in. That cultural environment is not our cultural environment. To read our cultural environment back on that cultural environment is changing what God said to them. And instead of looking at application, we're actually making the Bible apply to us and the way we want it to be applied, not the way God spoke it. Number 4, each biblical writing was accepted and understood in light of its context. Each biblical writing, each book in the Bible was written in a specific context and was understood in that context to those readers. Therefore, when we read that, we're trying to find the context that it was written in to apply to our lives now. Number 5, each biblical writing took on a nature of a specific literary form. In other words, we do believe the Bible was written in literary forms. For instance, poetry, narrative, epistles. And we believe the Bible used figurative language like allegories and similes and metaphors to express there. So we do believe the Bible has allegories in them, but we do not believe the Bible is an allegory. We believe the Bible has allegories to express and explain a specific meaning in a grammatical historical context. Lastly, each biblical writing was understood by its initial readers in accord with the basic principles of logic and communication. In other words, there are certain logical basic principles of logic that everybody holds to. The law of identity, the law of non-contradiction, the law of the excluded middle. In other words, A is A. A is not non-A. We believe those basic forms of communication were held then and held now. And therefore we can understand what was written 2,000 or 4,000 years ago, and we can understand the context it was written in. Based on those principles, there are basic questions that we ask when approaching the Bible. Number one, what do the words convey in the grammar of the original readers? Number two, what was being conveyed by those words to the initial readers? Number three, how did the cultural setting influence and affect what was written? Number four, what is the meaning of the words in their context? Number five, in what literary form is the material written, and how does that affect what is said? In other words, was it poetry? Was it an allegory? Was it a figurative speech? What's being spoken? And how do the principles of logic and normal communication affect meaning? These principles and these questions are very important when we're studying and teaching the Bible. There are certain principles based on the axiom 2, the Bible is a divine book. In other words, if the Bible is a divine book, then we believe, number one, the Bible is a divine book. It is inerrant. I have a link here to the Chicago Statement of Biblical Inerrancy. Well, I'd like for each of you to actually go to this link and read the Bible, the Chicago Statement of Biblical Inerrancy, made in the 1980s. It's an important statement, and it makes some important qualifications concerning what we believe about the inerrancy of Scripture. Number two, the Bible being a divine book is authoritative. If the Bible is a divine book, we believe it has authority. And we believe it should be our authority in teaching and instruction. Number three, the Bible being a divine book has unity. The Bible does not contradict itself. Obscure and secondary passages are interpreted in light of clear and primary passages. In order, there are obscure passages and secondary passages that are hard to understand, but they are to be interpreted in light of clear and primary passages. The Bible interprets itself. In other words, if you're having trouble interpreting the Bible, read the entire Bible. Read the context. If there's a hard passage in a book in the Bible, read the entire passage and put it in its context. We also believe that Revelation is progressive. In other words, starting in Genesis and moving to the book of Revelation in the New Testament, God revealed himself progressively. Number four, the Bible being a divine book has mystery. There are various areas of mystery in the Bible. Prophecy. There are things that are hard to understand. Miracles. These are things that God's done outside of time and space. God's moved in and reacted. And doctrine. There are certain mysteries in biblical doctrine. For instance, divine will and the human free will. Sovereignty and free will. Again, prophecy. There are things that are a mystery that we don't understand, that we can't understand, that the Bible does reveal to us, because the Bible is a divine book revealing to us about God's and who He is. And there are lots of those things that are mystery that we do believe, but sometimes we don't fully understand.